welcome to the Couple Money Podcast. Identity theft is a popular topic in the news. Whether it's data breaches, tax fraud, or old-fashioned dumpster diving, it's even more important to be smart with your personal information. In this episode, David Rubenstein, owner of Credit Shout and Credit Forums, is here to help. We'll be looking at how to better protect yourself offline and online, the differences between fraud alert and credit freezes, and whether or not identity protection services are worth the cost. I hope you enjoy.
One thing happened to a friend of mine that I thought was crazy. He went to the gym one day. Somebody broke into the locker room, went through a bunch of the lockers, took out, I think he said like 20 or 30 wallets out to a van they had in the parking lot. And they were just like, they had machines in the van to copy and make duplicate Costco cards, membership cards, duplicate credit cards, duplicate driver's licenses from the information in these wallets. And then they went and returned them. And then they would just go like immediately, like all over town, like a organized gang, go all over town and just run up all sorts of charges. You know, essentially it looked like you were using that person's numbers, account information, and run up all sorts of charges. And you didn't even know that you've been robbed.
You're probably not going to have your identity snatched up like that, but there is a good chance that you or someone close to you will be a victim of identity theft. We're talking over 17 million just in 2014, according to the Bureau of Justice. Now, there is no way to stay 100% guaranteed safe, but there are ways to make things harder for thieves. It starts with understanding how and where they operate.
I think there are a couple things you can do. You know, I would break it down to first, you know, what you're doing online, and second, what you're doing offline. And, you know, online, some of the stuff is just the basic information. You know, we're told over and over, don't use the same password, try to use strong passwords, set up two-factor authentication.
Let's begin with offline. Yes, data breaches are hot news stories, but there are plenty of criminals who love doing things old school. Grabbing trash is still one way thieves can get tidbits about you. That's because they can take those scraps of info and fill in the blanks, or get someone else to.
And they're not just looking your credit card numbers or bank account information going through the garbage. They're looking for all sorts of personal information, because they will just try to hijack your identity, calling a bank or a credit card company's 800 number and using what they know about you to create a relationship to get around the protection that's set in place. Like if customer service representative asks them for the last four of the social, they'll try to create a rapport with them and say, you know, I just can't remember it. And can you give me a hint? Use guesswork technique from there. Sort of like when you go to a fortune teller and how they get you to reveal information about yourself to make their predictions.
So if they're going to go old school, you should too.
People need to remember identity thieves are also working, you know, here in our terrestrial world as well. And you know, one of the best things you could do is actually have a shredder at your home. Apparently going through the garbage is still a big way to get identifying information about you.
Since much of our finances are online, think mobile banking and shopping apps, you're probably like me and have a ton of accounts. Accounts that need passwords. Like we covered in the first season, having unique and strong passwords for each of our bank accounts and credit cards is smart. But the hard part is creating multiple unique and strong passwords for each and every account. Welcome to my new best friend, the Password Manager.
Now, I know a lot of people love to just use the same password and something that's easy for them to remember. My wife may or may not be one of those people. You know, I actually use a password manager app to help me create unique and strong passwords for everything and keep track of them. Of course, make sure that the strong passwords are on anything important like, you know, our credit card and bank accounts.
For $20 or less a year, options like LastPass can alleviate having to choose between an easy-to-remember password or safe one. But even with these steps, you might want to do something more. Have some extra layer between you and thieves. Maybe setting up a fraud alert or credit freeze. While they sound interchangeable, there are significant differences you need to know.
I'm going to say I think that fraud alerts are great, and I'm not so big on freezes. I'm going to go and explain a little bit about each of them. So basically, a fraud alert is free, and you could just contact Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion to set it up. It's good for 90 days, and it does make it harder for somebody to open a new account in your name. So while an alert's in place, anytime you want to open new credit, they have to call and verify it with you. It's good for 90 days and it expires, but you can renew it, and it's free. A freeze is different, and to some extent it's governed by state law. There's a fee involved, and the fees, I believe, range, depending where you live, from between $3 and about $10 to put a freeze in place. But then you also have to pay to unfreeze it. So if you wanted to take out a new card to take advantage of a sign-up bonus offer, or you're buying a new sofa and there's a 12-month interest-free financing period, you're going to have to call and unfreeze it, spend another $3 to $10, and then get your new line of credit, then refreeze it. So while it's great and nobody's going to be able to take out credit in your name, it becomes a little unwieldy and can start adding up.
If you're listening to this podcast, you might also be searching and reading personal finance sites. If those targeted ads are doing their jobs, you're probably going to see some for identity protection. They look good and promise results, but are they worth it?
Some people have asked me about identity protection services and whether they're worth the cost. I think they're kind of expensive and, not really that great a coverage, because they're not going to pay any of the fraudulent bills. You're still going to have to do the work. What they're going to pay for is if you want to use a third-party service to do a lot of the work for you.
Got it.
And those services can normally run hundreds of dollars. They'll cover that. So you're paying the premium to get hundreds of dollars worth of coverage. So you can see how it's not going to add up for you.
If you think it's a service you want, David suggests calling up your insurance company first. It may save you some money.
My understanding is most people are already protected with identity protection services through your homeowners or renters insurance policies. Now, of course, insurance coverage variable by state, and then even some extent by carrier. But I would definitely check your homeowner's policy. You'd be surprised what's included and what's excluded. I mean, I think that's, my problem is, lawyer by training. I actually go and read the details on these things once in a while. Pleasantly surprised about the identity theft protection service. Not so pleasantly surprised by all the exclusions to things that I worry about may actually happen to my house.
I know there are a ton of options out there and services available, but the best way you can protect yourself from identity theft is keeping your eyes and ears open.
Personally, I think the number one thing you could do, you get at annualcreditreport.com, you can get from each of the three major bureaus, you can get your credit report free one time a year. I would go about every 4 months and pull and rotate through each of them, pull one of your reports and look to see if new credit is being opened in your name. Besides that, I would pay attention. Check your bank statements. Are you seeing withdrawals from your account that you didn't make? Are your bills not showing up in the mail? Are you getting calls from debt collectors about things you can't explain? And anything like that. And of course, I guess pay attention to the news once in a while because, your information been involved in one of the hacks that happens. I mean, there was one that happened to T-Mobile where you didn't even have to be a T-Mobile customer to be affected. You could have just applied for T-Mobile at one point. If you're shopping around for cell phones, you want to apply. Maybe you're somebody who might have to put up a deposit and you want to find the company that's going to charge you the lowest deposit. So and the hack got a bunch of old T-Mobile account applications from several years ago. It's just it almost seems like more and more you have to pay attention to lots of details.
Special thanks again to David for sharing his tips and research. When you have a minute, please check out Credit Shout. David and his team has some great information, not just on credit cards, but also some detailed articles on finances, including identity theft. All of the resources we've mentioned on the show, plus a little extra, are in the show notes. Heads up, a few links I include on the show notes are from sites I've partnered up with. There's no cost or charge to you, but if you sign up, you'll be supporting the podcast. If you prefer to directly support the podcast, then please sign up to become a patron. $1, $5 a month goes a long way to making this a better podcast for you. Anyways, on next week's episode, we're looking at what you need to know before buying a house. We saw it from a buyer's perspective last month, but we'll be getting an expert in. Louis Guillama shares advice on how to find the best home for you and your budget, including how to decide if a fixer-upper is really worth it. So if you don't want to miss out, please make sure you're subscribed to the podcast. It's free and easy. We're on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and more. You can also grab the feed off our site so you can listen to it from whatever podcast app you prefer. Thanks again for listening. I hope you have a wonderful week. Take care.